Hey Parks, talking to Jeff Saturday after the game, he mentioned that there was a stretch there where you kind of second guessed yourself a little bit. It was after the missed field goal and after I guess Matt Ryan had been sacked. And he said that he spoke into the headset, said, "No, you're calling a great game. Like, don't back down." What did that mean to you, and how would you just describe the feeling of going through such a back and forth game and obviously coming out with a win as in your first game as the play caller?
Yeah, James, good question. So yeah, after there was a point there where some things didn't go our way. We didn't execute like we wanted to. Thought maybe, and for me, I'm always going to point the finger at myself. So I don't know if I would say I was necessarily second guessing myself, but I was definitely. I'm asking myself the question: should I have done this better? Because that's what I'm always looking to do. But Jeff was amazing on the headset, and honestly, the entire staff just encouraging me. Saying, "Hey, man, just keep calling it. You're dealing, just keep calling it and just giving me the confidence to just continue to do, what we were doing in the game." And yeah, it was back and forth. And, it was a fun experience for me just to be able to answer the call a couple of times when we needed to. And the guys were unbelievable. The entire game, staff, players, just continuing to fight back. It was just an all around great effort.
Did you see sunlight at all? Like afterward, like did you see any sunlight since
Sorry,
the win?
I got no audio on you. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
One sec here, James. Sorry about that. Can you hear us, Parks?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you now.
You hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask just real quick. Did you see any sunlight? I know you hadn't seen some for the week, but were you able to soak some in after the win?
Yeah, I mean, the sun was still out after the game, and then we got back really late. But yeah, I've definitely stepped outside and soaked in the sunlight. I think, especially right now, it's really good to do that. So, yeah.
Bob Kravitz.
Yeah, Parks. I mean, you guys have all had to deal with some challenging circumstances these last couple of weeks. Can you speak to the way Matt Ryan has handled being benched for, I assume, the first time in his life, and then coming back and playing really well?
Ultimate pro. I mean, I can't say enough, can't rave enough about Matt Ryan, the professional, the person, the player, how he's handled this whole entire thing. And I've told him this week after week, just how much of an example he set for me. And I think for a lot of guys on the team and on the staff, just how to handle situations, adverse situations. And I mean, the guy is the ultimate pro. Like I could sit here and talk all day about how he handled the situation, how it couldn't have been handled any better. You could sit here, you could have 3 years to think about the situation, to think about how you would want to handle it. And you couldn't handle it any better than Matt Ryan's handled it. And so just for him to be able to go out there in his first game back and then have the success that he did, it just unbelievable.
Thanks.
Zach Kiefer.
Hey, Parks. What did you learn Sunday calling the game that you could not have known before you called the game? Like, there's nothing like doing it, right? So what did you learn that you didn't know? And then what was the most challenging moment, or what was the thing that you
Yeah, you kind of were cutting in a little bit. I think I got the gist of your question, Zach. And if I answer it wrong, then just re-ask it and we'll try it again. But I believe what you asked me was, what did I, coming out of the game, what did I learn that I didn't think, was something that I would think, going into it. And I think just for me, just being a first-time play caller, you don't know how you're going to respond. I didn't know, getting into the game, I knew that I was prepared. I knew that I knew the offense in and out. I knew that I felt comfortable. I knew I was confident.
Did you script the first 15 like Frank used to?
Yes. Yep. So scripted the first 15, which that's something that I've kind of, helped with before. And I've always thought through, because I'm involved in the game plan, I'm looking at the game plan saying, all right, well, here's the game plan. How would I script the first 15? And that just goes part of what I said last week of thinking about, if I was in that position, what would I do? So I was confident that going in that I was prepared, but you don't know when you get in the moment, how you're going to respond. And so just for me, just being in the moment and everything just felt natural to me. And, so I think that gave me a lot of confidence moving forward in the game, that when we got into it, I just really felt really comfortable. I think that obviously having the experience on staff that we have and having the guys that we have around me helped, just knowing that I had those guys there to help me through the whole process and, the whole time. But that would be the biggest thing for me, just not knowing how I was going to respond and coming out of the game feeling confident and comfortable that how I responded, how I handled it. But and then was there a second part of that question that I don't think I heard?
Yeah. What was the worst moment? What was the most challenging?
Yeah, I mean, when plays don't work, I'm pointing the finger at myself. And so I'm asking myself, what should I have called instead that could have worked? I'm trying to constantly think 2, 3, 4 plays ahead, and you try to, set things up. You try to think one step ahead. And so when things don't work, you have a tendency to overthink yourself and say, hey, should I have just stuck to this? But I think those are the moments where you just got to have conviction in, your prep, conviction in the players that they're going to make you right. And then when things don't go well, you continue to look and see how you could have handled it better. But I think that's just a part of experience. And, being the first game, I hope you only get better moving forward.
Kevin Bowen.
Hey, Parks. I got 2. I guess going back to last week, how much of a tweak did you have to make game plan wise, and thinking it would be Sam for a chunk of the week and then Matt by the end of the week?
Yeah. So, we talked last week about wanting to simplify. So that's one thing that we definitely did. And so there wasn't a ton of change because our core offense, both of those guys can execute really well. Obviously, they have different skill sets in a couple of different ways. So there's definitely a few minor tweaks that you make when you find that out late in the week, but it wasn't anything that was wholesale. And then wanted to make sure that we continue to keep it simple for, the quarterback, Matt playing, and then also for everybody else that was playing, just because once, not having the reps late in the week to be able to make that adjustment. But it wasn't probably maybe 10% of a change, nothing major.
And then looking ahead to Sunday, given it's Nick and Jonathan Gannon, does that impact your decision-making at all? Do you think about that more considering the familiarity?
I think that going into your prep, you think about all the conversations that you've had with those guys, and you think about you obviously want to use the fact that those guys to your advantage if you can. But as far as the decision-making in game, I think it's just going to be based off of feel, based off of how the game's going. And a lot of that is based off of, how, based on how they're calling it, based on how, how our guys are holding up. And there's a lot of things that go into that as far as, how to go about the game once you're in the moment. But I think the prep, you definitely think about those relationships that you got and what you do know about the person. And then once you have the plan, then you just rely on your instincts and you trust your players and you go execute.
Lara Overton.
Coach Frazier, I know how collaborative your quarterback's room always is and has been since you've been a part of it, since you've been here. With Matt having those 2 weeks of perspective, a little bit more removed where you can see bigger picture, what were those conversations like between you and Matt, and maybe some things that he'd observed, having an opportunity where he wasn't necessarily going and playing those 2 games, but really had almost a coordinator-like role in those 2 weeks now going in and moving forward?
Yeah, it just kind of speaks to Bob's question with how Matt handled the whole situation. I mean, a lot of guys would probably go in the tank and, maybe even say, all right, well, my time's passed, I'm out. But Matt was helping the guys around him. He was helping the staff. He was continuing to stay locked in. He was continuing to say, how can I help the team get better? And because of that, he helped us get better in a lot of ways. His commentary, his collaboration with everybody else throughout those 2 weeks when he wasn't starting was key. But then when he came back, well, now we had been having those conversations. It was easy, to go right back to him. And then we obviously just talked him looking at it from a perspective of not having to prepare to play. I think that we were able to say, all right, when he comes back, well, let's make those adjustments that we had talked about. And now we get a chance to see if they can go work. And they did in a lot of ways.
So quick follow-up. So there were some things maybe that Matt identified that you guys were able to implement and take into account this previous week.
Yeah, definitely. Again, I think a lot of it is simplifying. Just when he's got an outside perspective where he can see, from the outside looking in, I think that's one thing. And then there's some other stuff that I won't go into, but we definitely felt, good about some of the adjustments that we made.
We'll go a few more here. Joel Erickson.
Hey, Parks. From a play calling perspective, how much do you think how much would you estimate the offense changed? I know it's not a perfect question, but how much do you think the offense changed with you plays?
I don't know if the offense necessarily changed. I think maybe the way it gets called is just different based on the play caller. So I think that's probably different just because it's, the way the game gets called is such a play. It's instinct and it's just the way you see the game. So I think that probably changed a little bit, but I do think that, when Frank was calling it, and Frank and I see the game very similarly. So I don't think that it's necessarily a huge change, but obviously, like I told you guys last week, I have an aggressive mindset in my own way. And so I plan to continue to do that throughout the season. But as far as, I don't think it's too much of a difference from how it was before.
JJ.
Parks, that end of the first half sequence with the run plays in there, just you being a first-time play caller, Jeff being a first-time head coach in the NFL, just how good was the communication there to get those plays off and get into field goal range with the one time out?
Yeah, really gave us a lot of confidence after that drive. That's one section of the game plan that I've been heavily involved in really the last couple of years is 2 minute. And so when we got the 2 minute drive at the end of the half, I felt pretty confident in, the communication from me to Matt, and then from the staff to myself, and then obviously from Jeff communicating to all of us, but felt really good about that, the execution, the way the players handled it. Thought that using the timeout when we did, and then, communicating to JT on the second run, just that we were going to try to get down to a certain yard line and get down, let's bang a timeout. Just thought the players executed it perfectly. Like you said, to have a first-time play caller, first-time head coach, that gave us a lot of confidence knowing that you get that done.
Two more here. George Bremer.
Parks, as a first-time play caller, how much benefit is it in game to have a quarterback like Matt Ryan, who's basically seen it all and done it all out there?
Yeah, huge. And I told him that after the game. I said, obviously told him how great of a game he played, and just told him, man, I can't tell you enough how much confidence it gives you to know that you got a veteran that's seen pretty much everything out there that's going to make you right. And he told me that before the game, and that's part of, why Jeff was so awesome and how he handled it. And then Matt before the game was just like, dude, call it how you see it, and we're going to make you right. And, and then even in the game, there were times where I had a couple of thoughts, and I wanted to get his thought on what he wanted. And he was like, dude, keep dialing it. And when a guy like that tells you, I trust you and I just want you to make the call and we're going to make it right, it just gives you confidence that, that he believes in you and that he's going to make the play.
Last one here, Harry Douglas.
Coach, how much of the 2 minute offense, watching Matt Ryan throughout his career, that's been one of his strong points, running a 2 minute offense. How much of that offense may be some things that he may have done at other places that you may have implemented in the offense? And also, secondly, how easier is it as a play caller to call plays? I think you guys had about between 7 and 9, 3rd and 2 to 5s. How easy is it as a play caller to call plays when you're in those circumstances?
Yeah. So your first question, when we got Matt, that was one of the first things that we did was go back and watch, all of his film from last year, previous years. What was he successful at? What was he not successful at? What do we want to implement? And one of the things that he's obviously extremely talented in is 2 minute and always has been. So we were collaborative because that's something that we felt like we've been good at in Indy in the past couple of years as well. So it was collaborative, but there's definitely some things that we brought to our operation that he's done in the past that has helped and has gives us confidence in 2 minute operation with him at the, running it. And then your second question was just staying ahead of the chains. And, I think it opens up your entire playbook when you're in those 3rd and 2 to 5s, like you're saying. But even beyond that, we didn't have a ton of 3rd downs. We were staying ahead on 2nd down. A lot of our 2nd downs were 3rd and mediums. And then we were picking up a lot of firsts on second down, and just your entire playbook's open to you. And just as you're going, it gives you confidence that, if you do get behind the chains, now you just feel like you can get some momentum going to stay in phase and get those 30 mediums. And it just helps you keep your entire playbook open. And it really started with the intensity of the O-line, and they really brought it the entire game. And when you go back and watch the film, they played their freaking tails off, and just really happy for them too. And just the way that they responded. And, because of that, like you said, we were able to stay ahead of the chains. And as a play caller, like I said, it makes it easy.